Welcome to Wait What, your weekly verbal double take. This is a rabbit hole podcast where a couple of old guys do moderate to shallow dives into various topics, ranging from true crime, paranormal, sports, pop culture, or anything else that we find interesting. We drop episodes every Tuesday, and then on Fridays if we feel like it. You can follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, and Instagram. We appreciate you joining us. Now that we got all this self-promotion stuff out of the way, here we go. Hello, welcome once again to another episode of Wait What? My name is Darrell. I'm going to be the head guy in charge today. And here I am with the AI deepfake that I've spent the last year teaching to pretend to like it's been my best friend for the past 40 years. Jason.
Is doing a wonderful job.
You're an excellent AI. Way better than ChatGPT. Keep up the good work.
You're welcome. I'm not a robot.
All right. Well, today I'm going to start this off with a certainty rant.
Okay.
People can truly only be certain about very few things. Hurting kids is bad. Puppies are good. And Disney ruined Star Wars and Marvel. Those are the things that I know we can be certain about. Other than that, yeah, there's always some, wiggle room. There's some gray area. We don't understand why people and animals have dreams. Yet people like to act like we understand how humanity's presence is changing the planet's temperature. I mean, we go to sleep and dream every night. We have no idea why that's happening. Oh, but we know that, people driving their cars is making the planet hotter. We can't even make up our minds if eating eggs is healthy or not.
Oh, God, I hope it is.
You have one study funded by the poultry industry that says eggs are an essential source of protein that is good for you. Then a couple weeks later, you get a report funded by the cereal industry that states eggs are super high in cholesterol and should not be eaten regularly. I mean, they all got a dog in the hunt, so we don't know who we can trust.
Eggs. I'm going with the eggs every time.
All of our sources of data are compromised because somebody out there is making money on whatever's presenting that, on the study or whatever. History. We can't trust history. It's
Not
just
anymore.
Dates. Well, I mean, it's just, you can trust some of the dates, names, and documents, but that's about it. I mean, people from our generation and earlier got to witness Christopher Columbus change from a brave explorer to a slaver outback monkey.
Yeah.
History is always a matter of perspective. Even if you are going through and you're reading a 500-year-old diary or a 300-year-old letter, you always have to remember that you're just getting the writer's perspective. A lot of history is based on documents written by people that thought they were the good guys.
Yes.
Then on top of that, you have a bunch of academics interpreting these documents based on their own biases. So it's like, oh, I don't believe this particular 300-year-old letter, but this 300-year-old letter, that's the one that's telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get articles now saying that, like, Lincoln suffered with major depression or Amelia Earhart was scissoring Eleanor Roosevelt.
I ain't heard that one.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that she was specifically scissoring Eleanor Roosevelt, but somebody famous from the time. There's nothing definitive that says either of those things, but it's people trying to decipher what has been left behind and sometimes trying to push their own agendas.
Oh, yeah.
Now, once again, I just want people to know and understand that we, as a collective whole, people, don't know shit. If you ever find yourself getting mad because someone's point of view is different than yours, or they are quoting some bogus study, just remember whatever study you're about to quote back to them is probably just as biased as the one that they quoted to you. And so your certainty is just as stupid as theirs is.
I remember you going over something similar to this in the strange data, how statistics can be skewed
Yeah.
depending on who you work for or what statistic you're actually looking for. We're going to change that number up just a little bit.
I mean, it's what we see with like the pharmaceutical industry. I mean, whenever it's being funded by the people that are creating it, of course they're going to want like only results that look good. And so all this, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, look, this is great. And then some independent organization funds a study, and they're like, holy crap, this makes people grow tails out of their nose or something. Now, I will say that a lack of certainty affords me with, quite a bit of peace. It makes me flexible with, what I feel like I do know and what I feel like is likely. But then whenever I come across something that, proves that is less likely to be true, then I'm able to kind of go with it.
Yeah. You have to be flexible in your thinking in order to achieve knowledge, in my opinion.
Of course, whenever you're sitting there reading these things that are, where you're trying to learn more and get at least as much information as possible, sometimes you come across something that you wish you didn't read because it's something that's just terrifying. And not because it's about worms living in our ears or anything, but because there's implications in just theories sometimes and thought exercises that can just rock your world.
Oh, I bet.
And since I don't want to be scared alone, here's some terrifying theories and thought exercises that might just be real.
All right.
All right. Well, we're going to start with it's not really a theory. It is more of a thought exercise from a philosopher by the name of Bertrand Russell. And it is just a thought exercise. It's just a matter of like trying to change the way your perspective when you're thinking, but it really got underneath my skin. In 1921, Bertrand Russell published the Analysis of Mind. And I have never read it, and I do not intend to ever read it. So I'm not going to be able to give you a synopsis of the entire book.
Oh, they don't have Cliff Notes?
No. The thought experiment within it proposes that no one can prove that the world didn't just spring into existence 5 minutes ago. Now, imagine if all people, all the trash in the trash cans, fossils in the ground, newspapers dated from 20 years ago, and all of our memories just came into existence 5 minutes ago. Your logical response to this is, that's stupid. I know I was here like 5 minutes ago, 10 years ago, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
However, as I brought up before in the episode about comas, a lot of who we are and what we think is based on memories that can go away in a second or be manufactured in that one guy's case. Now, when Bertrand Russell proposed this, it was in a way to maintain philosophical skepticism when it comes to memory and history and stuff. Rather than depending on how things have always been, we focus on now and the future. So if everything just appeared 5 minutes ago, then we just focus on now and the future.
Okay.
Now, I don't care about any of that. I care about how this crawls its way into my head whenever I'm about to go to sleep. And the reason is technically it can't be disproven. I mean, if everything just came into existence 5 minutes ago and our brain was all of a sudden just pumped full of all these false memories, you can't prove that they're fake. If all the artifacts in the ground that look like they're 3 million years old just popped up in the ground,
You're talking like
at that state of decomposition, we wouldn't be able to prove it.
Are you talking like Matrix type stuff where they can
No,
just
that's
change?
simulation theory. That's something different.
Okay.
This is just saying that it's like I said, it's just a thought exercise, but he's just saying you cannot prove that what happened 5 minutes ago technically happened if it just conjured into existence. It's just weird. Now, this does not mean that I think this is likely. It's
I sure
just
hope
that
not.
there is a quadrillionth of a percent chance that it could be true, and that all the things that makes me me and you was just something implanted and created rather than experience.
Wow.
Now that you have an idea of the kind of stuff we're talking about today, let's move on.
I've got into deep conversations before, but that's like super deep shit.
That's just the opener.
Oh my god.
This next one is another philosophical idea. So there isn't any scientist. I'm going to make this clear. There isn't any scientist out there saying this is real, but it's just another thought exercise that can just be kind of unnerving.
An icebreaker, if you will.
Solipsism is the position that a person can only be sure their own mind exists. I, for instance, can be certain that you are an independent entity. Like I'm. Wait, sorry, I misread that. I cannot be certain that you are an independent entity like me that has my own thoughts and urges. Kind of like main character syndrome. It's
Okay.
just explaining though, but I can't know for real that you are just like me that can sit there and just think of purple pickles or something. You're, for all I know, you're just kind of programmed an NPC. I mean,
Okay.
you could tell me your thoughts or tell me about how something you experienced changed you, but I'm not in your head. So I can't determine if you chose independently what you wanted to do or if you were following some sort of programming.
I don't know, Daryl. Haven't you realized a lot of people seem to be starring in their own movies these days?
Well, maybe they were programmed to do that, and I'm just kind of trapped with all of you.
Not everybody's a movie star. Get out of their way.
Now, I can know about me that, what's altered me and my experiences, but we're not able to do that with each other. We can only essentially trust.
What about shared experiences?
Now, this does seem like the ramblings of a narcissistic psychopath, also known as an influencer. It should, because the likelihood of this actually being the case is infinitesimally small. I mean, it would happen somewhere if many worlds theory was real, but we're not going to talk about that one in this episode. Most philosophers argue that while no one can prove that anything outside of one's own mind exists, we perceive it to be independent and should assume that it is. So, in other words, philosophers are saying, yeah, you can't prove it, but that's stupid. You might as well just assume that they're just like you, which is a great philosophy from philosophers. Now, the only reason I bring solipsism up is because the thought of this being the case where you're the only entity with independent thought sounds so freaking lonely. I mean, if this was the case, you would essentially be living a life alone, but with just imaginary friends.
Yeah.
And that sounds awful. And that's what makes this a terrifying thought exercise to me.
Well, you said that that only could be based on individual experience. But what if you had a shared experience with somebody?
I mean, but thing is, I don't know if it actually changed you, if you just weren't programmed to go through that.
Okay, kind of like the Truman Show, how everybody's put on that show
Yeah.
to appease him. Okay.
All right. So that's enough philosophy for now. Let's go to math. And
Oh God.
we're going to discuss the point. God, I looked up how to pronounce this last week and then I forgot. The Poincaré Recurrence theorem.
Okay.
Henry Poincaré, or Poincaré, I don't know, it's French. Technically it's Henri Poincaré, was the first known person to discuss the idea that in a dynamic system where things are constantly changing state, that within a finite time, it will be the same as its initial state. Now let's
They go back
translate.
to normal or go
Well,
back from where it was.
if you allow me, I will translate this into
Okay.
Darrell
I'm sorry.
speak.
I was trying to be smart for once.
Stop. It hurts.
It hurt really bad.
All right. If you're playing poker and you get a spade royal flush, if you and everyone else stayed at that poker table and just kept playing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, in some amount of time, you will get that royal flush again, the spade royal flush. So yeah, kind of like what you're saying, things will eventually turn back to where it was. Now that seems like common sense, the monkeys typing at the typewriter thing.
Uh-huh.
But when it was presented as a mathematical proof, then it starts being incorporated in theories about thermodynamics and mechanical statistics. That's formulas and stuff that I couldn't possibly understand, but it does give some legitimacy to it and makes me concerned with its implication on the universe and time itself.
That
Now,
only a few people can understand it. Is that what you mean?
No, just its implications. I'm about to explain it.
Okay.
What we're doing right now, you and me, this podcast, and the probably one person listening.
Hi, babe.
There would be a version of us that did this exact thing, all of it. Same people, same spot, same computer, same topic, 50 bazillion trillion Google zillion centuries ago.
Wow.
Now, in reality, it would take unfathomably longer than even that made up number. All the dynamics would be, the movements of the planets throughout the universe, the DNA of everyone invented, everything, and the DNA of our ancestors all lining up, the creation of a planet all over again. But the thing is because we're in a dynamic system, with things constantly changing, then after that insane amount of time, all the atoms involved would eventually return to the state generated before. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
All this stuff bouncing around all over the place, people being created. I mean, we're talking about almost an infinite amount of time. It would seem infinite to us because, we're so little. All right. Now, I hate the thought of this because I talked before about my ideal afterlife where we would repeat things, but with the knowledge of our previous self, hiding somewhere in our subconscious, allowing us to possibly make new choices with, that insight, but not really knowing that insight's there. This theory is just us repeating the same thing over and over and over and not being aware of any of it because of our brain chemistry would be all the same because it's all the electrons and neurons and all the atoms returning back to that original state. Ugh. Now, fortunately, it only works within a finite amount of time, and the universe will likely experience heat death before that happens. So, we dodged a bullet.
Oh, thank goodness.
At least more than likely.
Oh man, how do people come up with these theories, man?
I mean, that one because of a mathematical equation. And
I
then
have
they
to
have to
see.
use it in physics and mechanical engineering and stuff. So, yeah. All right. So we're back to a thought experiment. And this one actually is going to touch on something that I said. I'm not really, it's not focused on many worlds theory, but it is part of it. Now, everyone is aware of the thought experiment, Schrodinger's cat. Right? You're not. Okay.
No.
You have a cat in a closed box with some poison and a radioactive isotope that can break through the seal of that poison that can release it. Now, while that box is closed, you don't know if that's actually happened or not yet. So that cat can be considered both dead and alive at the same time because you don't know it. You haven't looked at it.
Okay.
Now, only whenever somebody opens the box and observes if the cat is dead or alive, then it will finally be one or the other. That's Schrodinger's cat. Now, he did it as a smart-ass response to another guy's theory, but he ended up accidentally explaining it really well.
Okay.
All right. Now, of course, that sounds ridiculous. If a cat gets poisoned, it's dead, and if it doesn't, it's alive. But, and like I said, Schrodinger believed that too. This thought experiment was kind of a troll.
Kind of like a missing person.
Well, he was trying to counter what's known as quantum superposition. Now, quantum superposition is where subatomic particles are seemingly in two different states at once. But when they're measured, they only show up in one state. Mm. Now, this gets really kind of weird. This has been proven at the subatomic level. It's been achieved with photons and ions. So I think one of the best experiments on this is they were firing a photon through like a little divide. Okay. So whenever you think you're firing like a wave or something at a divide, it's going to split in two. Right. Mm-hmm. All right. So whenever they would blast it, it would bounce off instead of going through. But if they observed it while it happened, it would actually go the way that they expected it to go. I did a really bad job of explaining that. But essentially, that's what kind of happened. It acted one way whenever we weren't watching it happen. And then when we watch it happen, it measured it, it happened another way.
Okay.
I mean, this gets really crazy. I mean, this is like, I don't remember if I go over it in my script, but I mean, like right now, we still can't decide if electrons are an actual particle or a wave because it acts like both. Light does the same thing. All right. So we've achieved superposition. So something being two different things at once. We've achieved that in experiments. In 2023, it was achieved with the largest mass ever, with 16.5 micrograms, which is essentially like a grain of sand. They were able to make it act as if it was in two different states at one time. In 2024, a physicists were able to recreate previous successful experiments at warmer temperatures than they've ever done before, because anytime you do anything at a subatomic level, you have to do it in extremely cold temperatures, like as close to absolute zero as we're able to get. All right. Now, the reason I bring up all this stupid nerd stuff is because some physicists believe that once observed and superposition is disrupted, then the universe is split into a parallel universe. So, like I was saying, when you observe something, it locks into that. Well, this says, all right, you observe it, lock it in here, then this other path that you didn't see goes off and creates its own universe.
Okay.
Where that would be the path that's observed. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that most theoretical physicists do not believe in this theory. But I'm still going to talk about it. Now, I'm going to explain this theory using something that happened to me whenever I was younger. I was in a very bad car accident when I was 15 years old. I was in the back seat of a car without a seatbelt on, and the car lost control, flipped end over end, rolled over several times. Now, while that was happening, I was thrown out of the passenger window. Now, as the car landed on my legs, I happened to bend forward as I was going into the ground. And so my upper body ended up inside of the car, but my lower body was pinned underneath the passenger door. Now, had I not bent forward by the impact with the ground, the top of that passenger door would have come down on my head or neck. But that didn't happen, so I'm alive. Now, altogether, it was miraculous that once they pushed the car off of me, I was able to stand. It was a small car. The grass that we were in was tall and thick, so my legs weren't broken or anything. Now, according to the theory of quantum immortality, you have to imagine that I was Schrodinger's cat. The universe branched into a parallel universe, and there's one where I did not bend forward, and I died on the side of that road. And then there's the one I'm in now where I lived. Now, going further into quantum immortality, it asserts that your consciousness will always be in the reality where you don't die. That every time there's an event that kills you or you die, there's a branching reality where you don't.
You just
And
jump
that's
right
the
into
one
that
where
one.
your consciousness will follow.
Oh.
Now, this one hits hard for me because I survived something that I really shouldn't have. I mean, actually, I've survived a couple things I probably shouldn't have, but that one was the most severe. That's the one that did, the most damage to me. The reason I hate the thought of this theory is because it means each of our consciousness is destined to be the lone living entity in some parallel universe. Every path you go, your consciousness follows the one where you live over and over and over until there's just you. That is terrifying.
Yeah.
Just being this lone consciousness just floating around. Now, as I said before, theoretical physicists refer to this as a pseudoscience theory. And I would rather view my survival as a miracle from God instead of a bump in the road on an eventual eternity alone. So I'm with the theoretical physicists on this. Now, I'm going to end this episode with the least outlandish, but still terrifying theory. Coronal mass ejections are when the... What?
That sounded like something dirty.
No. I didn't say erections, I said ejections.
Either way.
Coronal mass ejections are when the sun ejects a massive plasma and magnetic field consisting mostly of electrons and protons that just shove out away from the sun. Now,
Solar flare?
No, don't mix these up with solar flares.
Okay.
A solar flare is like a spark, where a coronal mass ejection is like an eruption.
Okay.
All right. So solar flare is trying to light the lighter, and then coronal mass ejection is, oh my God, Mount St. Helens just exploded. All right. Now, some of these are classified as interplanetary coronal mass ejections, which means the ejection is so powerful that it reaches the Earth's magnetosphere. Magnetosphere. I'll go with magnetosphere. So what does that mean for us? Well, the best way to explain this is by telling you about the time that it happened. Yep, this time I'm not going over a crackpot theory. I'm talking about something that has happened and can happen and likely will happen again. At the beginning of September 1859, people as far south as Mexico, Cuba, and Hawaii saw the aurora borealis. The northern lights are a magnetic event triggered by solar activity. They didn't just get a free light show, though. At the time, the one source of electronic communication was the telegraph. As the sun's magnetic ejection crashed into the Earth's magnetosphere and its magnetic field, it created a geomagnetically induced current. And so that means that an electric current just through the air. Now, I didn't know how else to describe it and go. This electric current that went just zapping through the air caused telegraph systems in Europe and North America to fail. Some telegraph operators experienced electric shocks from their telegraph machines. The pylons on many telegraph poles, the things holding the wires and everything, began throwing sparks. Now, that was what they experienced with a tiny fraction of the electrical infrastructure that we have today.
Oh, man.
If the Earth took a direct hit like that today, then we'd initially get hit with like communication interference if we're lucky, and or communication loss, complete shutdown if we're not. The satellites that handle most of our communication nowadays through cell phones and stuff would likely ionize the metallic components of the satellites, causing the electronics on board to short out.
Mhm.
Now, newer satellites, some of them, have shielding that have shielding to protect them from issues like this. But that shielding isn't able to protect the signal that the magnetic disturbance would be scrambling. So even if it didn't blast out the thing, just all the waves going through the air, all that magnetism stuff would end
Mhm.
up screwing up the signals. The only electric lines in the world back in 1859 were telegraph lines. Now we're covered in power lines
Yeah.
everywhere. So the power grid that we have, that's essentially pumping power through these power lines, is pretty much at near capacity. So we're just making enough power to pump through those things. When that geomagnetic induced current hits the lines that are already, filled to the brim with electricity because we're at near capacity, they will surge and it will cause all the power lines to sag and then snap. So now we're talking no phones, no internet, no electricity. And you're probably saying, Darrell, I've been camping before. I can handle this. Well, maybe for a weekend, possibly a week. But depending on the amount of damage to the power grid and satellites, we'd be looking at weeks, but more than likely months to repair that damage. According
Wow.
to Lloyd's of London, repairing that damage would cost anywhere from $600 billion to $2 trillion, which I'm pretty sure getting the money and paying people to do that would also slow things down.
Yeah. How would you fix electricity without any sort of electricity?
I mean, their life finds a way. I mean, I'm pretty sure, you got tools and stuff. I mean, it's just a matter of fixing the power lines and then you have people repairing the actual, power plants and stuff. All right. So, can you see why this one is so bad? No
Yeah.
internet and no TV is how you turn the world into Thunderdome. Every jackass that studies post apocalyptic movies or just people that are terminally online are going to lose their mind. People are going to, go nuts and try to buy all the toilet paper because that's what we do here whenever emergencies happen. Magazines will fly off the shelf because people aren't able to get their daily porn fix anymore. Then, whoever has the most toilet paper and most nudie mags, they're going to get targeted because they'll be trading those goods for food and services. So giant wars will be fought with guns and kitchen equipment and gardening tools for neighborhood supremacy over the porn and toilet paper. Or, since it will only hit the daytime side of the earth whenever it happens, the nighttime side can provide aid to the affected countries. I mean, if you want to look at that.
Eh.
Also, if countries invest in overhauling their power grids, they can be built so that they aren't operating at near capacity all the time, so that they could handle a power surge like that.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't hold my breath for that one. Either way, there's only a 0.5% chance that we could be hit by an interplanetary coronal mass ejection. So those odds aren't too bad.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There's definitely a chance. Just in case, I'm going to make sure that I have plenty of toilet paper, ammunition, and dirty magazines. Just in case.
Oh, you got one of those covered.
Shh.
We won't tell you which one.
And on that optimistic note, that's going to do it for today's episode. Now, I hope this took your mind off of legitimate real life worries, because if you get to sit there and worry about these things that are completely unrealistic or very unlikely to happen, then you've you've got worry space in you, and then I hope that means that life is good and you just got to enjoy that. If you're having a really bad day and you got real life worries to worry about, well, I hope this took your mind off of it for a little
Yeah,
bit.
at least for 35 minutes or so.
Yeah. All right, Jason, I imagine you got lots of questions since I kind of plowed through all that.
Oh, I have lots of questions, but I don't even know where to start.
Okay. Just
That was
this
interesting,
was
though. I mean, those are like the type of conversations you have in the backyard at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're like, dude.
I mean, I was just kind of looking them up to see what I could find that was just kind of scary. I will say I'm kind of glad that a lot of them were just thought experiments and not actual theories. And I am sorry to any like physicists and stuff that, I mean, not that a physicist is ever going to listen to us, but just in case, I'm sorry how bad I did explaining Schrodinger's cat and quantum superposition and all that. That stuff's really complicated and confusing.
Well, what's the cat thing? How do you say
Schrodinger's
that?
cat.
It's kind of like a missing person that's been gone for 5 years where you can't really prove that they're dead, but you can't prove that they're alive. So you kind of think that they're both.
Kinda, I guess. I mean, it's more about something that you can observe right then and there. Like something that, it's like, I know this is in here, but it's not, I don't know how it's going to be until I see it.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I mean, like I was saying with electrons operate like particles and waves. So whenever whenever we were kids, we were taught atoms, clump of circles in the middle being, surrounded by other little circles. That's not what it does. It's more like a wave that just goes around the nucleus, which, you're like, okay, that's a wave. That's not a particle. But whenever they look at it through electron microscopes and watch how it interacts with other things, all of a sudden then it starts acting like a particle. And whenever they try to sit and quantum superposition, I mean, that they know is real. Like they can sit there and see that if you impact an atom or an electron on like this side, it will also react on the other side at the same time. And they see this in other instances. They've been able to reproduce this where they will observe and do something here, but they will also see the impact of it over here. So it is happening in two places at once at the same time. Which is what some people use as their basis for many worlds theories and parallel universes and stuff like that.
Wow. Some weird stuff there.
Yep. Well, we would love to help you ignore real life problems again. So join us next time when Jason, if he's
That's
not
me.
in the hot, yeah. I do a joke there. And you just come in and just stomp on it.
No, I'm sorry.
You couldn't wait until after the joke.
I'm just pointing at myself.
Can I do it now?
Mm-hmm.
Can I?
Yeah.
All right, join us again next time with Jason, if he's not in the hospital because he tried to dodge a bullet to prove that we all live in a simulation. If he's recovered, he'll tell us some things that will make us say, wait, what? See, that was a good joke.
That was a great joke.
And you killed the momentum.
Reminds me of the
especially
Matrix
since
movie.
you brought up simulation theory earlier.
Yeah. You got to see it at the Cosm. Really, really cool. It's really cool. It's really cool. It's definitely cool.
All right, cool. Well, all right. Well, take care. Bye, Neo.
Yep. Later.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Wait What? This show's available on YouTube, GoodPods, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere you listen to podcasts. We love to hear from you. Please comment on what you just listened to, pass along episode ideas, or just talk to us at Wait What Podcast in our Facebook group or on TikTok, Instagram, or X. Again, we really appreciate you joining us. Come back again to hear about some stuff that will make you say, wait, what?